Welcome to Travel Buddy, presented by Switchfly. In this podcast, we talk about all things travel, rewards, and loyalty. Let's get to it. James, Ian, welcome to another episode of the Travel Buddy podcast. This is episode 4, and we are talking about travel tips. So there's a big, huge, wide world of travel, lots of different things. We've talked about loyalty. We've talked about the economics of gift cards. We've talked about a lot of different things. But today, this is more about the mechanics of traveling, like booking a trip and what do you do and how do you do it? Because it is kind of confusing sometimes if you need to book a trip. Like, let's say we're going to Rome in the fall and I'm booking a week-long trip with my family. Where do you even start? You've got like a window to the internet. You've got Google, you've got, places like Expedia, or you go direct to some kind of travel provider on the ground somewhere. You've got hotels and Airbnb, you've got experiences at different places like Airbnb's experiences or whatever. You've got credit cards, you've got loyalty points, you've got, it's just this is hard. So, give me a little bit of the lay of the land of if I want to travel, what are the different um, ways to do so, and maybe like some pros and cons, really briefly, of like kind of surveying this place of picking a trip and booking it, and what am I looking for here?
Yeah, so just to back up real quick, one of the most things in life, travel is best when you take an active role in what you're doing and where you're going.
Mm,
That means instead of just, and I've done this once or twice where you find this fantastic travel deal. I can fly halfway around the world to Australia or, Italy, wherever. Crazy flight deal. You book it and then you don't think about anything for 6 months. And then you're like, oh, shoot, don't do that. Um, really the more time you put in upfront, the better your time is wherever you're going, whether it's, across town or across the world. In terms of, the number of options you listed out, let's kind of break those down one by one. At the start, when you say Google, that's pretty much a gateway to the internet at this point. I mean, that almost feels like the internet sometimes. But really what we're looking at is a combination of like three or four things. At the top, you have your online travel agent. That's anyone that, including us, Switchfly, though there is a nuance, that is booking a trip, experience, car rental, but they're not the provider. So, that's the difference between an Expedia and going to a Marriott or a Hilton, excuse me. There's two flavors of OTA. There's open and closed group. Open is going to be something where you can see the prices online, your Expedia, your Priceline, etc. Um, Closed group is going to be much more like, Switchfly. That's where we sit specifically for reasons. We can get into that towards the end. But it's also where you're going to see your credit cards. This is where points live. And the prices might be those like member only rates. If you've ever gone to one of those big wholesale clubs that's well known for travel and then try to get a price match from, maybe a hotel and they're like, we can't. That's why. They're by having it closed, they're able to get a certain level of control on pricing and packaging that may not be repeatable or replicatable in the open internet. And then kind of on the back end, we also have direct. Um, Closed group also includes something like a credit card or, these others. What I mean? My alumni association might have like specific insurance rates they might offer travel to, that kind of thing. And then lastly, we have directs where, if it's Brandon's, 50,000 plus hotel chain, I book directly through Brandon or Ian. That's what that means. They're the ones that own the physical building, the tour, whatever it is you're buying, they're the ones making it. And ultimately that's going to be where a lot of the status plays come in, the reward points, etc. Credit cards may offer reward points, based on bookings and differently, like mine gives me 5x points on flight and direct to book hotel. So yes, that can be beneficial. But then lastly, I also get a certain number of points if I book direct through one of the major hotel chains. But I also have status. And oftentimes, whether it's flight, hotel, car, um, they're going to offer you the best use of your status and rewards by booking directly through them. So then it kind of becomes this multi-step matrix to really decide, what's the best deal? What's the experience I'm looking for? Because we all know, there's a difference between the base room and the penthouse suite. And then what's my budget? What are those other economic or underlying factors where, you know, the intangibles that are going to be person to person?
So, James, what are some things you would recommend somebody do as they're kind of starting this process? Say I'm jumping online, whether I'm going direct to the hotel's booking page or through an OTA. Um, what should I be looking for? What should I be doing as I'm kind of looking at options here?
Yeah. Again, the biggest thing, just to be annoying, because this comes up so often, especially as we even talk to like our customer support partners at Switchfly, is really know what you're looking to get. It's not just where am I going in a city. I mean, any large metro is going to have amazing parts to it and parts that you probably never want to visit. Make sure you know what you're doing and what you're looking for. Once you've kind of zoomed in to where you want to go, that's where you start looking at, like how many rewards points do I have? What status do I have or not have? And what are the direct to book options? It's so hard to give a universal answer here. It's really going to be, it depends depending on, you know, see like what's the inventory like. Oftentimes, maybe you can see a room available on one site or one network, but you go direct and maybe it's not there due to a variety of factors. But assuming that you've done your homework, it really comes down to the dollars and cents of what experience are you looking for. And is there a subsidy available through points, whether that's through your employer, credit card, some third party network, as well as rates and rewards. Like if you're booking with points, you're probably not going to get reward points on top of it. Whether you go through like a Switchfly partner that may have, employee rewards, they might have credit card offer points that we can process. It's pretty uncommon, or even just directly through the loyalty programs. It's fairly uncommon to get status on top of that, unless you're paying a premium or upgrade. So once you've done your homework, you've looked through the policies, really, again, trying to be the hero of your own story here. That's really where you can start coming down to the brass tacks of like, you know, if it's $20 more, but you get the status upgrade or it gets recorded, maybe worth it. If you're able to save a couple $100 on a trip by going through a closed network or using some rewards points, that's really where it's like, how much is, how much is the upgrade or, access really worth? And, it just comes down to a personal decision.
So, James, I've found the hotel or maybe narrowed it down to a couple of different hotels that I'm looking at in the part of the city I want to stay at. Uh, I've read through the amenities provided and the type of room I'm getting. I've checked Google Maps and looked at research on the area, and it's right near where the museum I want to go to, and all these other things. Um, what then? Like, I'm ready to buy. I got a handful of points. When to spend. I got a budget that these things are all kind of vaguely within my budget. Uh, then what am I doing? How am I comparing the cash versus the points? What do I need to be looking at?
Totally hear you. This is where we really start to come down to like step by step by step. Flight, obviously, be aware of time zone changes, be aware of, any stipulations, just know what you're getting into. As well as the ability and the flexibility. And this is going to be a common theme. There's like the cheapest rate is usually a non-refundable locked in. If you know for absolute certainty that you're going there, cool. If you have any questions or there's any concerns, like, think about that before you press purchase. Unfortunately, we do see a number of people where they'll book the non-refundable rate, whether it's air, hotel, activity, and then for some reason may need to change it, may want to up. Like that's like that is what that is. We'll do our best to support, and don't want to promise anything. Sometimes we're able to come to a agreeable resolution for both parties, but at the end of the day, you are purchasing something, and that is forming a contract. There is an agreement you click on, or that you sign when you do this. And, really be upfront with yourself about, is this something I'm willing to do? Or is it worth the extra couple bucks to, pay at hotel, like there's always 17 different ways to do it. Assuming that we've purchased everything, the next step you want to do is be mindful of, is there any kind of unique circumstances to the trip? Like if we flew a red eye internationally recently and got in at 8 a.m. Well, I contacted the hotel personally or directly to make sure that there was a room availability for the morning. Something that can commonly happen specifically to a hotel is that if someone gets in after midnight, the hotel, usually by policy, will cancel the room if no one shows. So when you're making the booking, I definitely would put it anywhere in a notes field, you know, arriving at, and just be very upfront that there's an exception. And always try to contact or communicate as directly as possible. That goes for hotel, tour operator, any car rental, any of these things. Share a flight number, share an estimated time of arrival, contact information, and just be upfront with them. Hotels will bend over backwards to accommodate where they can, but there's also a pretty clear what non-refundable means, non-cancelable versus something that, and obviously you usually pay a few dollars more, a few percent more, but sometimes that minor little upgrade can save you from a world of inconvenience.
On our
Right. So,
honeymoon, we went to Paris to a five-star hotel, and we got there early, and our room wasn't ready, and we fell asleep at the lobby, and they were not happy about that. So definitely follow James' advice to call the hotel and make sure there's a room.
so what kind of things should I be? I got you. I clicked the user or the terms. I booked the room. I went with uh maybe the mid level where I can make some changes but not cancel. Um, so ready to go. Bags are packed. Stepping out the door. What am I forgetting? What are some things that I need to make sure I have with me?
I mean, if you're going international, definitely print copies of everything. That's like it is easy to get a copy of your passport made, even if it's just a photocopy, so you have the info available when you're, staying at an Airbnb, especially an Airbnb for international like a passport control. They're going to want to see that, as well as even just like a hotel reservation. It's easy to reference. You never know, you know, it's always the exception, but somehow we usually luck into those where it's amazing how just pulling out a printed out receipt can just solve 15 minutes of back and forth. Um, and then lastly, just be familiar with where you're going and what you're doing. For car rental, I swear every time I book a car, there's someone ahead of me who thinks that they can book on a debit card and doesn't realize that's probably a multi-thousand-dollar card hold versus having a credit card to put that on. Or, like if you're another thing specific to car, you need your driver's license, proof of insurance, as well as usually a credit card over debit. I mean, hey, if you want to loan one of our car rental partners a couple $1,000s on a debit card, that is a personal choice. But the easy button there is definitely have a credit card available as well. From there, it's keep track of where you are and where you are in terms of day on your trip. If you have a 7-day trip, day 5 is a tour. Um, be mindful of that in terms of whether any, health or travel changes. And again, contact the tour. That's the other reason that it's great to print all this out. There, you never know when there's going to be an internet outage or, I mean, especially even in the US, we've had hotels lose power, just these weird things. And it's always when you need the information the most and you can't access it. So having a hard copy of, contact information, where you're going, when, if you know someone who's ADD or excuse me, OCD, like I do, sometimes you end up with a like day by day, travel planner. Super helpful. I'm not gifted that way. And not saying that you need to be to have a successful trip, but that, you know, think like that. And even if you only do 50%, you're going to have a much smoother process. Because the last thing you want to do is spend an hour on the phone with customer service somewhere. Even if it's the best in class Switchfly customer support, you don't want to spend your time, dealing with customer service trying to solve a problem. you go on a trip to get away from problems, recharge and just enjoy yourself. And that's, again, investing in time up front, you're going to get the, those 401k type returns when you're, wherever you're trying to get to, doing whatever you're looking to do, versus having to call someone else and, ask for a lifeline, which again, we are here to support. Definitely do not want to make this sound like it's, you know, everyone for themselves. But at the end of the day, you're the one on location, you're the one on island, wherever you're supposed to be standing. It's highly unlikely that you're going to have a travel agent standing right beside you. Unlike the commercials, but by doing a little work ahead and also, maybe write down customer service, email and phone number if it's available. That's something that by being a closed network, Switchfly is really able to control. Not only are we able to offer best in class pricing packages, etc. We're also able to guarantee or maintain an expected level of service and support, which means that, if something does go bump, that we're here to help. I know that that's made a world of difference. Before we even get on this, I think we're all kind of talking about different plans, partnerships, whatever, that we've leveraged in the past to be able to kind of get out of a jam. Because, flight cancellations, the complexity that is life rarely seems to go down. It only seems to get a little more complicated year over year. And just again, having all those ducks in a row, it will save you immensely.
I think a real quick tip is like, if you for your itinerary, or you're talking about your OCD, some people plan that out. But if you just give a few bullet points to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, here's my like day
Mhm.
schedule," like roughly, it can print out a really nice itinerary. We've done that before, and you could print that out and give it maybe to the hotel like concierge or staff. Just let them know where you're going to be for the week or something. That could be helpful.
Fair enough. And there are a lot of tools like that where you can even start asking it. And I mean, we're starting to see like full fledged, like conversational like trip planning, all through AI. Like it's not a bad place to start. There's so much information out there that it's almost, it can be overwhelming. So even just having ChatGPT to kind of help synthesize the start of like, hey, I'm going to Miami this time of year, with a family of four. What kind of activity should I think about? It's again, all things are subject to failure, but it's a good starting point. The other thing too is, just ask around. Like Switchfly, I swear there's not a continent, or excuse me, there's not a country or continent in the world that we can't get, like on the ground experience from. Obviously, we're a travel company, so there's a bit of a bias there. But that's the other thing too is like who's around you. Who do you know? Who do you trust? Because you're able to. Recently we had a friend asking for some people she knew that was traveling out of country about Peru. We go down there a ton. We were able to give her a couple pages of notes and probably saved someone, a week worth of like hard earned lessons, um, that other people had to figure out. And it's just, a shared document that we've kind of curated over time. And those are everywhere, whether it's, someone or a blog online. Um, really, again, it's just own own your experience, you know, read the terms, conditions of the agreements you're signing, and then contact the hotel provider or operator ahead of time, if there are any concerns or even not. Rarely do we get just a nice email saying, "Hey, looking forward to this." But that's okay too. Then, and then when you get home, the other thing you can do if it was a good experience is give a review or share. A lot of these operators, especially on the experience side, are very boutique. They live and die by the reviews. And, like who leaves a 1-star review on a zip line tour in Hawaii, right? Like that, you're able to share your experience, kind of relive it a little bit. They're able to grow and, sustain their business so that hopefully the next time you come back, they're there and you can have an even better time knowing, oh shoot, that's actually the better view or, whatever that looks like. So, I mean, really, it's as simple as that. But it all starts with, who am I? What am I looking to do? And the little less fun question, like, what's my budget? From there, you're able to, start doing some homework, either monitoring prices or, actively looking at some of these other opportunities, whether it's a card, a closed network like a Switchfly partnership, um, or direct. And then we can kind of just start working down that flow chart to, contact ahead of time if they're, or just even contact the hotel with your estimated time of arrivals, just so there's some kind of record with your contact info. They'll contact you too, right? Like they want to obviously want to stay. That's when they make money. Um, from there, make sure you have the necessary documentation, be it, passport info, license, car insurance, credit card, maybe even have a backup credit card just in case, especially knowing that like an Amex or Discover may not be universally accepted. We've had it happen where you country hop and one's popular in one place but the exact other. Um, Definitely be aware of that. And then from there, assuming that it goes well, leave a review. It's an awesome way to, again, to relive a moment and also help a business, because oftentimes these are people that I mean, they literally survive off the experiences that y'all are paying to go on.
So, I mean, there's a lot of steps there, right? Like
Mhm.
we had booking, or even before that, just starting the search for travel,
Yeah.
narrowing down options and booking. You have flight, car rentals, hotels, activities. I mean, a whole smorgasbord of stuff, not to mention dealing with, customer service. If
Mhm.
something goes awry or you need help with something, coordinating with the local tour operators or the hotel or anyone you might have to deal with along the way, along with all the financial considerations. So like with Switchfly, and other OTAs, what do they do to kind of tie all that together, and make it helpful for the traveler?
So really you're asking why an OTA, right? Or why Switchfly? And the real answer is experience matters. Not only do we curate, and speaking specifically for us, because obviously that's what we know the most about. Experience matters, right? The platform is curated and the offerings are curated for a best in class experience. We, actively suggest things based on who is searching, what they're looking to do, you know, all the different signals. That could be that will probably be a podcast in itself. From there, we have, white glove support where if you call us, you get a person. It's not, 17,000 automation steps or 24 to 48-hour reply time window, which are both real things. And definitely not what you want when you're somewhere that, hey, I have a problem right now. I don't want to sleep on the street tonight. Especially when you're looking at the more exotic stuff like a short term rental. But anyway, getting back into the why, um, and then so basically we say we support people from page load to plane load. And that's the return flight, not the arrival. And that makes all the difference in the world, especially for me. I've been fortunate enough to travel quite a bit. And the farther you get from home, the more you really want kind of even just that warm hug of having a support or a partner that is there to support you. And that support piece is a huge part of it. Not only is Switchfly able to, act on your behalf as the merchant of record or the online travel agent, we're also able to be the go between, working with the customer and able to contact the hotel provider, whatever. Really, if you've been traveling if it's been a long trip, you're just tired, you're worn out. The last thing you want to do is have to kind of just navigate the Dante's Inferno that can sometimes be these situations. And then,
Well, and I
especially
imagine them talking to people all day like that. They know the language that the hotel speaks, right? So I'm sure that's a
exactly.
benefit.
Oh, and the other thing too is Switchfly, we have as a brand over 20 years of providing travel, 20 plus years of smiles and miles, as we say. But on the employee side, I mean, we have, I swear, centuries worth of travel experience, that, all gets baked into not just the product, but the experience that the traveler has. And then, one step beyond that, in terms of our brands and partners that we work with, they can actually sleep at night knowing that there is someone to kind of step in and support if there is a bump, or something does, pop up versus, kind of the homebrew or, Uncle Steve's discount travel dot biz where, you found this cream and rate, but good grief, is it hard to find, who does it? Because that's the other thing too with some of these open OTAs, you know, it can be through party one, booked via party two with, a third party tour, hotel, flight. So then when I'm the end traveler trying to talk to the actual person doing the thing that I paid for, they're going to tell me, you get a lot of this. You don't want this. You just want someone to solve the problem. That's really what we're here to make sure happens and take care of when it doesn't.
And for the record, James was for the audio listeners, James was pointing in opposite directions. You get a lot
Thank you.
of left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing kind of thing to use that phrase. Yeah.
Thank you for
No,
clarifying.
it's
Great
so
point.
so key. I've done that, I've had that experience before where I booked on some, marketplace thing and then I ran into an issue. So yeah, and that really does happen.
And
James, Ian, this has been super, super helpful. There, like Ian was pointing out, like there's just a million different ways that you can do this, and so having somebody there to help you is just so key. So, yeah, just super thankful that you're able to be there to support people, but also just to explain to our listeners how this actually happens and some tips that are can save you a lot of headache when you're traveling.
100%.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. Looking forward
Awesome.
to next episode. And we'll see you next
Thank
time.
you.
Until next time. Thank you.
Till
Bye,
next
guys.
time. Later.